Part 1. Highway Ghosts, 15 minutes. The night was thick with fog as trucker Tommy Reynolds rolled down the lonely stretch of Route 66. The highway lights were few and far between, and the hum of his rig's engine was the only sound keeping him company. Truckers know that route well. Long stretches of empty road, abandoned gas stations, and roadside diners that never seem to sleep. But tonight felt different. As he passed a particularly desolate stretch, Tommy noticed a figure by the side of the road, a young woman, waving frantically. She wore a white prom dress, soaked from the drizzle. Her hair clung to her face, and her eyes seemed hollow. Most truckers would have driven past, but something in her gaze made him pull over. "Need a lift?" Tommy called. The girl nodded, stepping into the cab with chilling silence. Her wet dress left streaks across the seat, and the smell of damp earth filled the air. Tommy tried to make small talk, but she didn't respond. After a few minutes, he looked at the road ahead. Then he blinked. She was gone. No traffic, no wet streaks, nothing. Just an empty seat and the faint sound of soft whispers saying, "Thank you." Another story comes from Ken Masters, a veteran trucker who spent decades on the I-40 corridor. One night, he stopped at a long-abandoned rest stop, just as lightning cracked across the sky. Inside the empty gas station, he felt cold spots and whispers, and a hand seemed to brush against his shoulder, but no one was there. Cameras and equipment later confirmed nothing physical entered the building that night. Ken isn't the only one. On these old highways, truckers tell of shadowy figures in headlights, appearing at the edge of the road only to vanish when approached. Sometimes they appear as children, sometimes as old men in ragged clothes, but the feeling is the same, watching, waiting, and almost warning you. Then there's the story of the phantom hitchhiker of the crossroads, which has been told by generations of truckers. A man named Bill Harris was driving a heavy-duty rig in the dead of night. He saw a boy standing at crossroads, thumb out, asking for a ride. Bill stopped, and the boy climbed in silently. He was soaking wet, but Bill couldn't see where the rain was coming from. His window was closed. "Where to, kid?" Bill asked. "Just down the road," came the faint reply. 10 minutes later, Bill looked back. The boy had vanished. The seat was dry, the jacket folded neatly on the back, and the smell of wet earth lingered for minutes after. Bill later learned that decades ago, a child had been struck by a truck at that very crossroads. Truckers also report shadow figures on the road. Some call them the highway watchers. They appear just in the corner of your vision, by a tree line, on an overpass, or even running alongside the cab at impossible speeds. Many try to swerve or flash their lights, but the shadows move faster than anything humanly possible. Most stories end the same way. The trucker reaches the next mile marker, and the figure is gone, leaving only an uneasy sense of being observed. Then there's the story of Maryville Road, a stretch infamous for truckers hearing voices through the CB radio when no one is on the channel. One night, a driver named Sam Peterson was hauling livestock. Around 2 a.m., his CB crackled. "Don't look back," a voice said. Sam froze. No one was logged in on the channel. He glanced at his mirrors, all empty. Then, through the fog, a white van appeared behind him, its lights off, keeping pace no matter how fast he drove. Sam pushed his rig to 70 miles per hour, heart pounding. The van followed. No sound, no headlights, nothing, until the fog lifted at sunrise. By then, the van had vanished without a trace. Truckers claim the van is the ghost of a driver who died in a crash decades ago, still roaming the highways looking for company. Finally, Tommy's story from earlier resurfaced in his mind. Over the years, he told it to other truckers, only to discover something chilling. He wasn't the only one to see her that night. Other drivers reported picking up the same girl in the same spot, disappearing in the same way. The legend of the prom dress ghost of Route 66 grew, one of many highway phantoms that keep truckers awake on lonely nights. Driving these highways at night is no simple task. Every shadow, every foggy bend, and every flickering light could be just another trucker or something else entirely. And as truckers often say, never pick up a hitchhiker on a lonely highway some of them never really leave. Part 2. Truck Stop Nightmares. Truck stops are supposed to be safe havens for long-haul drivers, places to rest, refuel, and grab a hot coffee before the next stretch of lonely highway. But some truck stops have a dark reputation, and truckers swear that some nights, the walls themselves seem alive. The Vanishing Restroom. Veteran trucker Roger Big Rig Malone told this story countless times. He was driving through northern Arizona, somewhere near a forgotten stretch of I-40, when he needed to stop badly. The GPS showed a rest stop a few miles ahead. It was deserted. The lights flickered and the building looked abandoned, but a single pump was working. Roger pulled in, relieved. Inside, the restrooms were immaculate, almost too immaculate. The tile gleamed, the sinks sparkled, and yet the air had a strange, metallic tang. As Roger finished, he noticed the door behind him creak. When he turned, the restroom was completely empty. No signs of anyone, no shadows, nothing. The weirdest part? When he stepped outside, the rest stop was gone. The GPS still showed it as open, but the building looked like a decayed shell of cement and rust, long abandoned. Roger left fast, telling himself it was a trick of the fog. Other truckers, passing the same road over the years, reported the same vanishing rest stop, sometimes with whispers echoing from the walls, warning them to leave before it's too late. Whispers and scratches. Then there's Highway Sam Douglas, who parked at a rest stop in southern Texas. He fell asleep in his cab, only to wake at 3:13 a.m., hearing scratching on the metal side of his truck. He grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. The lot was empty. No one, no animals. The scratching continued, now rhythmic, like someone pacing back and forth. Sam hopped back into the cab, locking the doors, but the scratching moved to the other side, as if circling him. By sunrise, the sound stopped. Sam inspected his truck. No damage, no mud, no evidence that anyone had touched it. But for the next 3 nights, whenever he returned to that stretch, he felt eyes watching him. Truckers tell stories like this often. Some nights, the empty truck stop becomes alive, as if something is watching and waiting for the weary driver. The haunted motel. Not every horror is outside the cab. Sometimes it's inside a motel attached to a truck stop. Trucker Marty Lewis recounted a terrifying experience in Oklahoma. She checked into a small motel after a 14-hour haul. The lobby was empty except for a faint humming, almost like someone singing softly, but no one was there. She shrugged it off. Her room was clean, but as soon as she tried to sleep, she heard whispered warnings in her ear, saying, "Don't open the door. Don't look in the mirror." Heart pounding, she stayed still. In the middle of the night, she woke up to the sound of her bedroom door creaking open. Her keys, wallet, and phone were gone from the counter. She dared not move, just waiting for daylight. At sunrise, the items were back on the counter, perfectly arranged, as if nothing had happened. Marty left immediately, never staying at that truck stop again. Other drivers later reported similar whispers, making it one of the most infamous truck stop motels in the area. CB radio from the dead. Truckers swear that some rest stops carry a special kind of paranormal energy. Around midnight, static creeps through CB radios, and some swear they've heard the voices of drivers who died decades ago. Case in point, Doug Harper, hauling refrigerated cargo in Kentucky, parked at a small rest stop near the old Lincoln Highway. The CB crackled. "Don't stay. Get out. He's coming." Doug looked around. No one was nearby. Then he noticed headlights approaching the lot. A black pickup truck with no driver visible. Doug hit the gas, but the truck mirrored his every move, staying perfectly behind him. At the next exit, it disappeared. Doug never returned to that rest stop, but he later learned a driver had vanished from the same lot in 1978, never to be seen again. The smell of decay. Some truckers report unnatural smells at haunted truck stops. Rotting meat, wet earth, or smoke without fire. Truck stop worker Lisa Chun recounted an incident on I-75. Late one night, she was cleaning when she heard a deep, guttural growl from the back lot. Nothing was there. Then the smell of decay filled the room. She called security. Cameras showed no one outside, but the smell persisted for hours. The lot was eventually closed down, never reopening. Truckers say smells are often the first sign something supernatural is near, a warning to leave before it's too late. Final warning. Truckers share these stories over coffee at diners, swapping tales of strange noises, vanishing restrooms, and ghostly whispers. The consensus is clear. Never park alone at night in a deserted lot. Never enter a restroom that looks too perfect or too empty. Listen carefully to the CB radio. Sometimes the dead try to warn you. As the old saying goes among long-haul drivers, some truck stops aren't for sleeping. They're for seeing who survives the night. Part 3, Killer Highways and True Crime. Long-haul trucking is not just about lonely roads and mechanical work. It's also about danger hidden in plain sight. Some highways are infamous not for ghosts, but for real-life killers, unsolved crimes, and mysterious disappearances. The Interstate Strangler. In the 1980s, a string of murders plagued the I-70 corridor, earning the nickname the Interstate Strangler. Truckers were often the first to find the victims, abandoned cars, leading trails, or abandoned belongings along the shoulder of the highway. Veteran trucker Frank Daniels remembers one chilling night in 1984. Driving through Missouri, he saw a car on the side of the road, engine running, hazard lights blinking. Thought maybe someone broke down, Frank said. He pulled over, approaching carefully. As he got closer, he noticed no one was in the driver's seat, but the passenger side had a pool of blood and a handbag. Inside the glove compartment, he found a newspaper with the previous week's missing person case circled in red ink. Frank left immediately, but the image stayed with him. Truckers who drive these routes learn quickly not to investigate alone. Some disappearances were never solved, leaving long-haul drivers always looking over their shoulders. The abandoned cars. Truckers often encounter vehicles left in the middle of nowhere, engines running, doors open, and no trace of the driver. One case involved Maria Santos, a female trucker on I-40 in New Mexico. She was hauling a refrigerated load late at night when she spotted a van stopped on the shoulder, lights flashing intermittently. She slowed down, expecting a mechanical failure. The van was empty, no driver, no passengers, no keys. When she checked the area around it, she saw footprints leading into the desert, disappearing suddenly, as if swallowed by the sand. She reported it to authorities. The van had no prior accidents logged. Truckers call these phantom vehicles, but Maria insists they feel more sinister than any ghost, like the road itself is warning you not to stop. The shadow semi-truck. Then there's the infamous case of a ghostly semi-truck that follows drivers for miles. Veteran driver Eddie Big Wheels Harper recounts one night on I-81 in Pennsylvania. Eddie noticed a truck with no lights appearing in his mirrors, matching his speed exactly. At first, he thought it was a prank, another trucker trying to scare him. But every attempt to lose it, speeding up, taking exits, even stopping at a rest area, was unsuccessful. The truck never honked, never flashed lights, and had no visible driver. By sunrise, it disappeared completely. Eddie's story made the rounds among long-haul communities. Others reported similar black trucks stalking drivers, sometimes for hours, always vanishing by daylight. Highway serial killers. Highways have long been hunting grounds for serial killers, taking advantage of isolated roads and truck stops. Some cases remain open today. The interstate killer preyed on truckers' cargo and parked cars in the 1990s, leaving victims in abandoned rest areas. Lonely truckers sometimes find bodies in the median, dumped from passing vehicles. A few survive to tell the tale, describing a stranger in black, lurking at night, watching the trucks. Truckers adapt, always carrying pepper spray, cameras, and sometimes even firearms. But the stories continue. Long-haul highways are fertile ground for killers who exploit isolation and speed. Disappearing drivers. One of the most unnerving patterns involves truckers themselves. Across the country, drivers have gone missing, sometimes leaving trucks idling with cargo untouched, as if the driver vanished into thin air. Take Robert Mason, who disappeared on I-10 in Texas in 1997. His truck was found perfectly parked at a rest stop, keys in ignition, CB radio, static buzzing. Despite exhaustive searches, Robert was never found. Over the years, dozens of truckers reported seeing a familiar rig driving itself on empty roads, headlights glowing, but no one at the wheel. Some say it's a warning from the highways themselves. Others whisper it's the driver caught in some eternal loop, doomed to patrol the road forever. Creepy encounters while stopped. Not all danger is death. Sometimes it's psychological terror. Truckers report being followed for miles by vehicles that appear and disappear. Seeing shadowy figures on overpasses, pointing or staring, vanishing when approached. Hearing footsteps on trailers when parked, but cameras show nothing moving. Linda, long haul. Peterson recalls stopping at a lonely New Mexico truck stop at 2 a.m. She heard a deep voice whisper her name, yet no one was near the cab. The whispers grew louder until she revved the engine and left immediately. Other truckers who passed the same lot later reported similar experiences. Final reflection. Killer highways aren't just about accidents. They're about the darkness that thrives in isolation. Truckers have learned to respect it. Never stop alone at night in isolated areas. Keep communication devices on at all times. Observe strange vehicles, shadows, or sounds, but don't investigate alone. As veteran truckers say, the road doesn't forget. It keeps what it wants, and sometimes it watches the living just as closely as the dead. Part 4, Paranormal Truck Encounters, 15 minutes. Some truckers have faced more than accidents, criminals, or lonely highways. They've encountered the supernatural, inexplicable events that defy logic and leave even seasoned drivers shaken. The ghost truck. Veteran driver Mike Diesel Carter was hauling freight on a remote stretch of I-81 in West Virginia. Around 1 a.m., he noticed a semi-truck in his rearview mirror, its headlights bright but strangely dim, as if the light itself was wrong. No driver was visible. Mike accelerated, but the truck kept pace perfectly. When he took an exit, it disappeared, but moments later, it reappeared in the distance, drifting silently behind him, headlights glowing like cold fire. Mike described it as like looking into the past, a vehicle at a time, following the living along the road. Other truckers report similar experiences. Trucks with no plates, no drivers, no sound, vanishing when approached. Some say they are the spirits of drivers who never left the road. Mile marker 66. On the outskirts of Arizona, drivers tell of a stretch called mile marker 66, infamous for sudden engine failures. Trucks stall for no reason, radios crackle with static, and compasses spin wildly. Trucker Lisa Moreno recounted, her engine died while passing mile marker 66. She tried restarting, but nothing worked. The fog thickened, and through the mist, she saw figures walking on the asphalt, tall, shadowy, moving in unnatural ways. One figure stepped into the road, and when Lisa blinked, it was standing inside her cab, reflected in the rearview mirror just for a second. She floored the accelerator, and as she cleared the mile marker, the figures vanished, leaving no trace but a lingering coldness in the cab. Truckers warn, this stretch is not haunted by ghosts. It's haunted by the road itself, a malevolent presence that tests drivers' courage. The vanishing driver. Truckers sometimes encounter drivers who disappear completely, leaving only their trucks behind. Tommy Lang, a long-haul driver in Nevada, stopped at a rest area. A fellow trucker named Dan was sitting in his cab, eating a sandwich. Tommy waved. Dan waved back. 10 minutes later, Tommy finished fueling and returned. Dan was gone. No cab door open. No sandwich. No footprints in the gravel. Tommy asked other truckers. None had seen anyone. Weeks later, he discovered that Dan had vanished from this very route years ago, never reported dead or missing officially. Some believe these drivers become trapped between worlds, still patrolling highways as shadows of themselves, occasionally glimpsed by the living. The road that doesn't exist. Several truckers have told stories about GPS or maps leading them to roads that aren't there. Driver Eddie Harper was transporting cargo through rural Pennsylvania. when his GPS directed him down a narrow dirt lane. As he drove, the surroundings became surreal. Trees twisted, shadows longer than possible, the sky oddly dark. Hours later, he emerged onto the main highway. The dirt lane had vanished completely, replaced by nothing but desert and scrubland. Eddie asked locals. They said that road hasn't existed for decades. Truckers call this phenomenon the Lost Mile, a place where reality bends and drivers are briefly pulled into an alternate highway. Con deep cargo. Paranormal encounters aren't always outside the cab. They can ride with you. Samantha, Sammy, Ortiz hauled old antiques for a client in Ohio. Late at night, she noticed boxes shifting in the trailer. When she checked, she found an open crate containing an old porcelain doll she didn't remember loaded. Later, the doll appeared in the cab, sitting on the passenger seat, staring silently. She drove faster, ignoring the cold presence. By dawn, the doll was back in the trailer, but she swore she could feel its gaze in every mirror and reflection for miles. Truckers call these experiences haunted cargo, claiming some objects carry residual energy from past owners, traveling silently along the road. The final warning. Long-haul drivers share a common mantra about the supernatural. Don't drive alone at night on deserted highways. Trust your instincts when a road feels wrong. Some trucks, some roads, some cargo are not meant for the living. Paranormal encounters often blend with real dangers. Fog, isolation, and fatigue, but some experiences are unexplainable. Veteran trucker Marty Lewis summed it up best. You can see ghosts, or you can feel them. On the road, they're both real, and neither goes away when you stop driving. Part 5, True Trucker Horror Encounters, extra hour/bonus stories. While most horror focuses on highways, trucks, and ghostly phenomena, there are stories that are stranger, closer, and eerily personal. Encounters that truckers never forget. The man at the overpass. Truck driver Ronnie Steel Wheels Carter was cruising down a lonely stretch of I-75 in Ohio at 2 a.m. His headlights swept across an overpass, and there he saw a man standing, arms outstretched, as if trying to stop him. Ronnie slowed, expecting the man to step aside, but he didn't. As Ronnie's rig passed beneath the overpass, the man disappeared into thin air. Cameras on nearby trucks later confirmed there was no overpass pedestrian access and no record of anyone being in the area. Truckers call this the overpass watcher, and many report seeing similar figures. Some even claim the man appears only to warn or curse passing drivers. The Phantom Load. Trucker Melanie Ortiz was hauling cargo in California when she noticed her trailer felt unusually heavy, even though the weight was verified before departure. At a stop, she opened the trailer to find all cargo intact, but moved into different positions, as if an invisible presence had walked through. Later, she felt a cold hand brush against her shoulder inside the cab. No one was there. Other truckers report phantom loads shifting overnight, sometimes accompanied by low growls, whispers, or shadows that seem to move independently of the trailer. Fog of the Lost Mile. Highways in the Pacific Northwest are known for sudden, dense fog. Veteran driver Tom Rivers recounted a stretch called the Lost Mile. He entered the fog around midnight. Visibility dropped to a few feet, and all sound disappeared. Tires on asphalt, engine hum, even the wind. Tom saw figures walking in the fog, some carrying lanterns, some seemingly floating. When the fog lifted 10 minutes later, he had traveled 5 miles, not one, with no memory of the road he had passed. Truckers say this phenomenon is not uncommon, and some claim drivers lose hours or even days on fog-covered stretches. The Silent Convoy. Some truckers encounter a convoy that doesn't exist on any map or GPS. Driver Eddie Harper described a night on I-40 in New Mexico when he noticed a line of trucks behind him, headlights perfectly aligned. He tried to communicate over CB radio. No response. He took an exit, but when he re-entered the highway, the trucks were gone. Other drivers have reported the same silent convoys, sometimes appearing for hours and disappearing in an instant. Many believe these are spirits of long-haul drivers who never finish their routes, patrolling the highways forever. The cab reflection. Some horror is terrifyingly personal. Trucker Linda, a night owl, Peterson parked at a remote Arizona rest stop. Looking into her rearview mirror, she noticed another figure in the passenger seat, someone she didn't know. She blinked. The figure was gone. But then, every reflective surface, the mirrors, the windows, even the side of the truck, showed the same ghostly figure just out of reach, always staring. Linda didn't sleep for the rest of her shift, convinced the presence was tied to her cab and traveling with her. The final words. Truckers often conclude these stories with a shared warning. Some roads, trucks, and rest stops are gateways to things humans don't understand. Isolation amplifies the unseen forces around you. The longer you drive, the more aware you become that the road remembers every driver. Highways are not just concrete and asphalt. They're living, breathing corridors of memory, tragedy, and sometimes the supernatural. Part 6: Extreme Highway Horror and Legendary Encounters. Some truckers survive what no one should and live to tell the story. These tales mix near-death experiences, strange apparitions, and highway legends that blur the line between reality and nightmare. The Road of Endless Darkness. Driver James Night Rider Calloway was on I-90 in Montana, hauling a shipment of machinery through a long, unlit stretch. Around 1 a.m., his headlights flickered and then died. Completely dark, the engine groaned, but refused to restart. Through the pitch-black night, James saw shapes moving along the roadside. They weren't walking, they glided, almost hovering, and their faces were pale, expressionless and humanoid, but wrong. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, his engine roared to life. When he looked around, the figures had vanished, leaving only tire tracks in the gravel that didn't exist when he'd stopped. James calls this the Road of Endless Darkness, warning other drivers to never stop if the night feels alive. The highway that eats time. Some stretches of highway are said to trap time itself. Veteran trucker Lena Martinez was hauling electronics through New Mexico. GPS indicated a 90-minute drive, but after exiting the highway, she had traveled 4 hours. Her CB radio was filled with static and faint voices, some calling her name. When she finally reached her destination, no one believed her, and the stretch she drove was recorded on official maps as cleared in 90 minutes. Other drivers report losing hours, sometimes entire nights, on similar roads, never explaining where the time went. The Vanishing Roadside Family. Truckers tell stories of ghostly travelers on the highway. Driver Eddie Harper stopped at a rest area in Ohio and saw a family of 4 drenched and waving for a ride. He slowed. As he approached, they were gone. No footprints, no vehicle, nothing. Later, Eddie learned that a car crash had killed a family decades ago at the exact location. Some truckers believe these apparitions replay moments of their death, hoping for rescue that never comes. The Silent Pursuit. Some encounters involve vehicles that follow you for miles, but with impossible characteristics. Truck driver Marta Lewis was on I-81 in Pennsylvania when a black SUV appeared behind her. No headlights, no sound. Whenever she sped up, it kept pace. When she braked, it did too. By sunrise, it vanished without trace. Other truckers report similar silent pursuers, sometimes over hundreds of miles, often believed to be the spirits of drivers or entities drawn to fear and isolation. The hitchhiker that never exists. This is the most infamous trucker legend, the Phantom Hitchhiker. Tommy Reynolds, a veteran driver on Route 66, picked up a girl in a wet-prom dress one stormy night. She rode silently, then vanished mid-ride, leaving a damp seat and faint whispers. Other drivers later reported the same girl at the same spot, disappearing in the same way. Truckers call her the prom dress ghost, warning new drivers. Some souls never leave the road, and some hitchhikers ride forever. Final thoughts on extreme encounters. Highways are more than roads. They are repositories of memory, fear, and mystery. Truckers who respect them survive. Those who ignore the signs sometimes vanish. Veteran truckers summarize. Trust your instincts at night. Never investigate alone. Some roads and encounters are meant to be survived, not understood. Every mile driven on these haunted highways carries the echo of past tragedies, ghostly presences, and warnings from the unknown. For those who drive long haul, the road is never truly empty, and sometimes it does not want you to leave.